A man from Derinkuyu in the Nevsehir province of Turkey was renovating his basement. Using only a sledgehammer, he broke through one of his walls. He felt cool air coming in from the other side. When the hole was large enough to squeeze through, he decided to investigate. And inside, he found a small room-sized cave. And at first, he was excited. This could save him a lot of work. This area of Turkey has a complex cave system, so he thought he accidentally stumbled into one. He didn't. When he turned on his flashlight, he saw writing on the walls. Roman, Greek, and languages he didn't recognize. That first small room was only the beginning. Let's find out why. Flashlight in hand, he followed the narrow stone hallway. At first glance, this looked like a natural cave formation, but upon closer inspection, he wasn't so sure. The stone ceiling was rough, like you'd expect to see in a cave, but the walls were smooth. Over hundreds or thousands of years, an underground river could have eroded away the stone, but there was something eerie about this place. It was as if he could feel a human presence. The hallway continued for some ways, eventually spilling into a large room that could fit dozens of people. And from here, he found a system of passageways, and here and there were more small rooms, and some looked like storage areas, with crevices that could have acted as shelves. And around every corner, he found more rooms. First, he thought this was some kind of hideout, but it was just too big. Nobody could have built this. So after exploring a few hours, he thought he finally reached the end of the structure. But after making a sharp turn, he saw actual carved stairs, which led down even further into the darkness. If there was any question before, now it was clear. This wasn't a natural structure. It was built by people, but it was too massive for him to explore on his own. So when he made it back through the hole in his basement wall, he called the Turkish authorities and described to them what he'd found. They told him he was describing the myth of the hidden city of Derinkuyu. And the man knew the story well. He'd heard it since he was a boy. The myth of Derinkuyu talked of an ancient city which provided refuge to every citizen in the area, built thousands of years ago, hidden beneath the surface. He knew the myth of Derinkuyu very well. He then said, "Sir, with all due respect, it's not a myth." Derinkuyu is in the Cappadocia region of central Turkey, which has very distinct geology. Millions of years ago, volcanoes covered the area. When ash is ejected during a volcanic eruption, it solidifies into a type of rock called tuff. And tuff is a relatively soft and porous rock found all over the region.
Why the hell did they name soft rock tough?
Well, it comes from the Latin word tophus, meaning sandstone.
Lousy name for marketing. They should have named it something like a mushy rock or easy chisel.
We're not selling the stuff.
Everything is for sale, my friend.
May I continue?
No, by all means.
Because tuff is so pliable,
Easy chisel.
it's been used for construction since ancient times. Romans used it all over the empire, and the statues on Easter Island are also made of tuff. So it's not surprising that people in Turkey have been building with this material since prehistory. But rather than mine the stone and build up, the people in Derinkuyu built down. There are hundreds of subterranean houses in Cappadocia, and some even go down 2 stories. But there's nothing quite like Derinkuyu. The underground city of Derinkuyu goes down over 250 feet. In the first few years of exploration, experts went 18 stories down, and since then, 2 more levels have been discovered. It might go down even further. Archaeologists are still excavating. The total area of the city discovered is 5 square miles, or 13 square kilometers, and housed over 22,000 people. The upper floors were used as apartments, closest to the fresh air. But Derinkuyu has a complex system of over 16,000 ventilation shafts that allow air to circulate through every room in the city. It also has a fresh water supply. At the lowest levels of Derinkuyu is a series of underwater rivers, and wells were centrally located to bring water to the entire city. In fact, people living on the surface above Derinkuyu have been using wells originally intended for the underground city. They just didn't realize what was underneath them. And incidentally, Derinkuyu is Turkish for deep well.
See? That name makes sense. Tough, not so much.
You need to get past the names, pal.
Yeah.
The tunnels seem to go on forever. To walk from one end of Derinkuyu to the other is a 7-kilometer walk, or 4 miles of tunnels. As you move further down the structure, you'll find areas that meet every need of a self-contained city. There are dining halls, churches, schools. There are rooms for pressing and storing olive oil. There are markets, bakeries, wineries, libraries, and storage for vast amounts of food. A few more levels down are areas for keeping livestock and stables for horses. They're areas for butchering, curing, and storing meat. Thousands of people could survive for a very long time completely underground. But who would build a giant subterranean city? And why? The land in the Cappadocia region of Turkey is extremely fertile, ideal for farming, so why go through the trouble of building such an elaborate underground city? Well, most archaeologists agree that Derinkuyu was built for protection. But it's more than a bunker, it's an underground fortress. There are about 60 surface entrances to Derinkuyu, and these doors are hidden in buildings and courtyards and parks all over the town. But when the doors are closed, they're just part of the landscape, and there was only a single main entrance into the city. And when under attack, residents would retreat underground using one of the many hidden doors. And the doorways were protected by massive circular stones that could retract and could only be opened from the inside. And these doors weighed 1,000 pounds each or more. And the main gate was even heavier. The access tunnels at the surface are very narrow, requiring people to enter single file. And this was intentional. It would force invaders into choke points to make the city easier to defend. And most levels had armories to allow soldiers and citizens easy access to weapons. Even the local militia had dedicated stables to maintain horses for a small cavalry. They could ride out through a secret exit and take invaders by surprise. And Derinkuyu's multi-level cave system wasn't designed randomly. It was well thought out. All of the city's levels are interconnected, but they could individually be sealed off from one another, preventing enemies from going any further into the structure or sealing them in. Even the water supply was designed with defense in mind. It could only be controlled by the bottom up, so if invaders breached the upper levels, their water would be cut off, and this system helped prevent the water supply from being poisoned. And as a last resort, there were dozens of hidden passageways that led out of Derinkuyu, and a passageway that leads to Kaymakli, another underground city that is about 4 miles away, and you can travel there completely underground.
Is that one a big city too?
Well, Kaymakli is still being excavated, but some say it may turn out to be even bigger than Derinkuyu. It's thought that there could be an entire series of interconnected cities all around this area, completely underground. So we know why this huge subterranean city was built. But who built it? Well, that's where there's some disagreement. But we do have some clues. So who built Derinkuyu? Well, the structure is made of stone, so carbon dating is no help. But there are a few theories. Some believe construction started with the Hittites between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago, and a few Hittite artifacts have been recovered which make this case. The Anatolian Hittites controlled a large portion of Asia Minor, reaching all the way to Upper Mesopotamia, and Cappadocia and Derinkuyu were right in the middle of Hittite territory. And this region of Turkey was a main corridor for trade, so in the ancient world, whoever controlled the trade routes would be able to impose their will on the entire region.
Location, location, location.
That's right. This was very desirable real estate. And Hittite cities were under constant attack from outside forces. An underground fortress would have been very useful to protect this land and its people. And the Hittites had enemies on all sides. They were constantly at war with the Assyrians, the Thracians, and of course the Egyptians. And the people that gave the Hittites a lot of trouble and may even have been responsible for their eventual demise were the Phrygians. And the Phrygians inhabited central western Anatolia in ancient times and were related to the Greeks. We all know the story of the Midas touch.
The muffler guy?
No, Midas was a Phrygian king who, according to legend, could turn anything into gold.
I think he also invented the muffler.
He didn't. Some believe the Phrygians constructed or at least expanded and improved the city of Derinkuyu. And the Phrygian people were talented engineers and architects, and they undertook large, complex building projects all over their territory. Considered some of the greatest builders of the Iron Age, the Phrygians had the skill, knowledge, and ingenuity to create an elaborate subterranean city. Several of the rooms in Derinkuyu have been determined to be ancient chapels, and on the chapel walls are inscriptions written in Greek. Now, the Hittites wouldn't do this, but the Phrygians would, and they controlled the area until about the 6th century BC when they were conquered by the Persians. There are even written records that may support this. Xenophon of Athens wrote Anabasis in 370 BC, documenting a Greek army expedition to Persia. He mentions a people in Anatolia and Cappadocia who lived underground in dwellings large enough for entire families. Now, though they didn't build Derinkuyu, early Christians occupied it in the 1st century AD. Within the complex are several Christian churches, and there are Christian symbols and writing all over the upper floors. They also added vaulted ceilings and other structural features found in Christian architecture. And Derinkuyu was a place for Christians to hide from Roman soldiers and practice their faith in secret, avoiding persecution from the Roman Empire. And during the Arab-Byzantine Wars from 780 to 1180, Muslim Arabs used Derinkuyu. They also expanded the structure and inscribed the walls. Now, there's no consensus on who built Derinkuyu, but its role in history is undisputed. It was a shelter from attacking armies, refuge from raiding tribes, and sanctuary to the faithful who feared religious persecution. I like to think that if the first builders knew how many thousands of people would use this city to protect their faith and their families, those builders would be proud. Derinkuyu is an important discovery, and I hope it inspires others to explore. Undiscovered secrets are all around us. Now, sometimes the walls that obscure the truth are miles thick, but other times they're paper thin. But whether by innovation, persistence, or sheer luck, those walls can be breached. It's at that point that a wardrobe becomes a gateway to Narnia. Platform 9 3/4 opens up a world of magic, and a few inches of stone in a humble Turkish basement reveals an ancient underground city. I encourage you to break down these walls wherever you find them, whether it's a literal wall as in this story, or a wall in your mind holding you back from an adventure. Break down that wall. You never know what hidden world you might discover. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish. This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor and like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. Those little things really help the channel. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.